Kelly Davis, your host of the Untold Miracles podcast, and today I'm so excited to be interviewing a world-class gymnast, Olympic gold medalist, and season 8 winner of Dancing with the Stars. She's also an entrepreneur, philanthropist, social media influencer, New York Times bestselling author, member of the USA Gymnastics Hall of Fame, and founder of FitLife. America fell in love with her when she competed in the 2008 Olympics and won the gold medal on the balance beam at just 16 years old. I'm so grateful to get the opportunity to learn and be inspired from her today. Shawn Johnson, welcome to the podcast.
Hey.
I'm a big fan and feel very honored to have you on the show. On this podcast, we talk about miracles to inspire people to believe in miracles and create miracles for those around them. Looking at your life from afar, there's been some pretty miraculous moments. When you were just 3 years old, you started gymnastics and stuck with it. Most people don't understand and know the level of commitment that it takes. But you kept going and became an Olympic athlete.
And I loved it. I was such a shy person by nature when it came to school and business, and for some reason in the gymnastics gym I felt like a superwoman, and I loved everything that taught me, and it just kept me going. But yes, through the hard days, through the injuries, through the sicknesses, like the bad days, the good days, it was always that push that kept me going.
What kept you really motivated?
Honestly, my parents were everything for my career, because as a gymnast and as an elite level gymnast at such a young age, you hear all these stories of parents pushing too hard and, almost sacrificing a childhood for that elite set mentality. And my parents were the complete opposite. I would come home from a 6-hour workout at the age of 10, and my parents would just say, "Are you sure you don't want to quit? Are you sure you don't want to go to a sleepover tonight instead? Do you want to miss gymnastics practice and we'll go shopping?" Or it was all of these things. And every time that they said that, it was just this reassurance that they truly wanted me to do it for me. And it was my decision and my passion. And seeing that on, their hearts just kept me in the sport, because I knew if I truly loved it, I could continue. And if I didn't, they would still love me and be a part of my childhood. Let me have that childhood.
Do you think there were any miracles involved with who you were able to have as your coach?
Absolutely. I was very blessed and very lucky to fall into the hands of my coach. It was by coincidence, though. My coach, Coach Chow, he coached in West Des Moines, Iowa, but he opened a gym in Des Moines, Iowa when I was 6 years old, and it was actually like a mile from my parents' house. And my parents switched me to his gym because it saved them gas money. And it was just a relationship that I think was heaven sent, because he's like a second dad to me. And we bonded not only as like coach and athlete, but as a family.
I read an article about your coach that he really pushed you to be a kid, to go and have the sleepovers and go to Dairy Queen or just do things that a normal kid would do. And I think that's amazing, because a lot of times, we get caught up in trying to win, be the best, and we forget about being human.
Thank you. He was the best, and it's just because of his upbringing. He was actually a gymnast for the Chinese national team, born and raised in China, and he had the opposite experience and had his childhood kind of taken away from him. Mm. And so his dream in life was to come to America and live the American dream and kind of raise these elite set athletes that were also kids. And he thought it was possible, and nobody else did, and it kind of came true, which was pretty cool.
Well, so what advice would you have for young girls today, or anyone who wants to be an Olympic gold medalist or Olympian and who has a dream and they want to achieve it?
Oh my goodness. I would tell anyone who has a dream that anything is literally possible. And it's so cliche. I was told every day of my life that anything is possible if you set your mind to it. And people kind of roll their eyes anymore at that statement, but it truly is. If you are a kid and you have a dream and you fall in love with whatever it is, be it mathematics or science or gymnastics or piano, if you truly have a passion for it, nothing else matters. I mean, the hard days, the struggles, you can get through all of that with a passion and just keep working for it. Don't let anybody get in your way.
I know you've learned a lot from the sport of gymnastics. It's been a big blessing in your life, and I'm sure has helped create miracles. What has gymnastics taught you the most about life?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say gymnastics is the most humbling sport. I might be biased, in the sense that if you're on the beam, if you're on the bars, if you're on the floor, you literally have to fall on your face or split the beam or fall in very ugly ways before you can succeed at something. And I think learning that as a kid, learning that failure is okay and it's a part of the process, really set me up on the right path and track when it came to business and family. And it gave me this life motto of nothing is going to come easy, and that's okay. But if you push through it, you can achieve the greatest happiness and the greatest success if you just kind of stick with it a little bit longer.
Do you believe in failure?
I would say I might contradict myself a little bit, but I don't believe there is failure. I believe there's mistakes. And I think failure is a very, definite statement. If someone says you failed at something, it means you can't get any better and you can't progress. I think us as human beings make mistakes on a daily basis that we can come back from and progress from and kind of work on and perfect.
I want to go back to August 19th, 2008. It's the last day of the gymnastics competition at the Olympics. You've already won 3 silver medals, and you're the only one who had to compete every day in a different event.
Yes.
And on that day, you have the flu.
Yes.
I want to know how you were able to go out and compete on the balance beam with the flu and win a gold medal.
It was an interesting day where I walked into the gym and I walked into the competition arena and my mind wasn't there, my body wasn't there, and my coach kept trying to snap me out of it, but he knew I was sick and he knew I didn't feel good and I wasn't on my A game. And I remember standing in front of the beam, so exhausted, not feeling good, needing to run to the bathroom. I mean, just terrible things, terrible situations. And closing my eyes, saluting to the judge, and jumping up on the beam. And usually when you compete as an athlete or a gymnast, you're thinking through every second of every move, and you're finessing the technical side of your sport and your skills. And I remember not thinking of anything. My body went into autopilot. I remember hearing my dad in the stands, screaming, and somehow found myself on the ground at the end of the routine. And I was like, oh, I made it. I did it. And I was so confused and in a daze, but some sort of miracle came over that performance and got me through it.
Well, I read that you blacked out and your body just kind of took over and that you remember thinking that this wasn't your best performance.
Yes.
You really just didn't think there was any way that was going to be a gold medal performance.
Not at all. I mean, when you get to an elite level of a sport, you know your body, you know your performance, you know your competitors better than anything. It comes with that territory. And I knew what I was capable of. I knew my best performance from my worst. And I knew that routine wasn't my best. I made little mistakes that myself as a perfectionist was kind of nitpicking on. But I guess that also plays into the sport because it might not have been everyone else's best day either. And I just happened to be the best at that time with a not perfect performance. And I do remember looking at my coach and I was like, it was okay. And he just laughed and he's like, well, you won. So it was, again, I was also very lucky. I had a coach who raised me in a sport not to worry or put worth behind placements. He was truly the greatest coach I think I've ever had the chance to work with. And he taught me from a young age, I don't care if you come in last or first, I'm going to ask you every time, how did you do and how did you feel? And if you are wearing a gold medal and say it wasn't your best, then we'll go back and work on it. But if you are in last place and say you gave it your all, I'll be prouder, of you than anything. And I think being at the Olympic Games wearing a gold medal, being able to take a step back and say, it wasn't my best performance, but I did pretty good is pretty cool.
So when you look at your 4 medals, do they mean the same to you because you gave your best effort for all of them?
I would say the medal that means the most to me is my silver medal during the all-around competition because that was probably the one time in my career where I had given it my all in other competitions and other performances, but there was something about that performance where I left my soul on the floor and there was nothing else I could have done. And receiving a silver medal I just had this like huge sense of pride because I kept telling myself, I don't care what they tell me.
Mm-hmm.
That was the best I could have done. And there was just a pride that came with that because the world wasn't saying, oh, good job. It was always, oh, if you did this a little bit better or worked a little bit harder, you might have been able to get that gold. And to me, it was like, no, there was nothing more I could have done. That was it. And that was my best. And it means more than the gold somehow.
That's such a great lesson for life in general. If we're showing up better than we were the day before
Mm-hmm.
and we're doing our best, that's really all that matters. And we're really just competing against ourselves. I want to ask you, so most people walking the planet will never know what it's like to be on an Olympic podium and be representing their country and get a gold medal. What is that feeling like? And can you go back there in your mind easily?
Yes and no. It feels like a million years ago, and it also feels like yesterday. Standing on an Olympic podium is, I always try to explain to people, it's the most confusing feeling and sensation in the world because as an athlete, you sacrifice your life for your passion, your hobby, and your sport. And for me, I had been training for 16 years, and to stand on that podium, it was almost like this. It's like crossing a finish line. You're kind of confused because you're standing on an Olympic podium and you're asking yourself, how did I get here? And you're happy because you are crossing a finish line and you can relax, and you're sad because you're crossing a finish line and it's kind of the end of an era, and you're proud and you're humbled, and it's just all of these things and all of these emotions rushing into you at once, and it's overwhelming. Like I understand why you always see athletes crying on a podium, just because it's an overwhelming feeling, but it's the greatest feeling.
Well, shortly after the Olympics, you got another trophy, the Mirrorball Trophy, dancing with Mark Ballas on Dancing with the Stars. And our co-founder of Children's Miracle Network Hospitals actually was on Dancing with the Stars last season, John Schneider. And so I was able to go to the show, and I'm like, this is the most unbelievable production. I can't believe how hard these people work throughout the week, and then just to do those numbers back to back. But I want to know what the most challenging part of that experience was and what you enjoyed the most.
I would say first, I absolutely loved Dancing with the Stars. It was the greatest experience after being on an Olympic stage. However, I think the hardest part for me was coming off of an Olympic podium, having pretty much perfected a hobby and a craft and a sport, jumping straight into something that I have no business doing and I have never done, and you're doing it on live national television was so intimidating. And I think for me, getting out of that perfectionist mindset and learning how to humble myself immediately and kind of take on this mentality of it's okay not to be perfect and just learn something new was a lot. And I was very insecure about it at first, but it gave me a lot of confidence in the end.
Well, I know that you opened up about dealing with an eating disorder in 2008. Did you have this while you were on the show?
Yes. I struggled with eating disorders pretty much throughout my career on Dancing with the Stars, in the public eye for a very, very long time. And it was the pressure of being a teenager and going through puberty and doing everything under the scrutiny of, the social world, which was hard for me as a perfectionist to deal with.
So how can girls avoid the negative body pitfalls? I myself have dealt with body dysmorphic disorder for 20 years and eating disorders as well. And so I definitely understand, but what advice would you give to girls to help avoid those issues?
I would say we live in a time, in an era in society that makes it harder than ever because we live in a world that doesn't accept flaws very well and wants everyone to look the same or fit a mold. And I would just say that what helped me start to heal from everything was having a group of people around me that love me for who I am and that know every single thing that's going on in my mind and in my life. I think that was the hardest thing for me, going through the eating disorders and trying to gain confidence in myself, was not sharing those struggles with someone else. I would keep them to myself and I would say, no, I can get through this. I'm strong enough. And I would just say that we all think we're strong enough, but we need a support system. And honestly, when I met my husband, I became more open and vulnerable with him than I had ever been. And he held my hand and helped me through it all. And I think we all need a person like that, a community like that, and a support system.
Well, speaking of your husband, Andrew East, you guys have a YouTube show together where you are very real and unfiltered. And in 2017, you opened up about a miscarriage. And I want to know if there were any miracles that came into your life and others' lives by your vulnerability to share your story.
That was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through, just because I had never, dealt with that territory before and never felt loss like that before. And I was confused going through it, that we had decided to post this on YouTube. It was honestly my decision. My husband was more cautious about it. He wasn't sure if that was something we should share with the world. I think he was just protecting me. Mm-hmm. But I chose to share that with everyone because I needed a community as well, kind of like I just said about the eating disorders. I needed to know how to heal from it, and I needed, a community around me. And when I posted that, I didn't know what response it would get. I didn't know if it was good or bad, but the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of women who reached out directly telling me stories about them and how they could relate to it and how to help and how to heal, it kind of created this community of women that was stronger than I had ever seen before and really helped me get through that. And to me, that was a miracle because I didn't know if 2 people would watch it, let alone 10 million people. And it truly got me through that hard time.
It's real, it's raw, it's authentic, and I think it can be helpful for anyone that's going through a challenging time. It doesn't have to be a miscarriage. And I just really appreciate you being willing to share that, to help so many millions of people who are going through something that they feel like they don't have the courage to be able to get through. I just do think it's so amazing that you were willing to open yourself up and do that to help so many people.
Well, thank you.
I know you retired from gymnastics in 2012 and you had multiple injuries. I want to know what you learned from those injuries, and were there any miracles involved with the timing of your retirement?
Injuries as an athlete, injuries in general, is a very hard and humbling experience to go through. When I got injured for the first time in gymnastics, it was the first time I didn't feel invincible as an athlete, and I felt like I was breakable, and I started to doubt my abilities and doubt my confidence and myself and my body. And I would say where injuries have really taught me in gymnastics and in life is just you have to be patient and you have to work through them, and it's an obstacle and roadblock that everyone goes through, and you just have to kind of grit your teeth and go with it and get through it. But with my retirement and the injuries, I worked all the way through my injuries, my surgeries. I had full knee reconstruction a couple of times and got all the way back into my sport, and had noticed from my injuries the hesitation in my sport that I had and reservations I had about my abilities anymore. And I'm more so retired from my sport because of a lack of passion that I had. I had loved the sport so much for so many years. When I first got back into that first competition, I noticed after the rehab and after the struggles and the injuries and overcoming it, I had pride in that, but I had lost my heart for the sport. And I knew that losing that heart would jeopardize my career and jeopardize my safety in my sport. And so I knew it was my time.
You wrote a book called Winning Balance, What I've Learned So Far About Love, Faith, and Living Your Dreams. I want to know what balance looks like to you in your life today.
These are great questions.
Thank you.
I would say balance for me anymore is something that my parents taught me at a very young age when I started getting serious in gymnastics, is not to focus 100% of your energy on one thing. They always said as a kid that I needed to have balance in life, and I needed to be a child, and I also needed to be an elite athlete, and I needed to be a daughter and a friend. And if I didn't have the right proportion of passion and heart invested in each of those areas, that I wouldn't be a healthy individual. And I think a lot of times we as people can put too much emphasis and too much, I guess, percentage of our heart into one area that we lose balance. And for me, with work and with my marriage and with my family, it's just trying to keep those even and equal so that everything stays balanced out.
Well, I know you've had so many incredible experiences in your life, from winning an SB to being on The Apprentice to having a day named after you to being on Dancing with the Stars All-Star season and being featured on McDonald's cups and Coke boxes. Is there a moment that stands out to you as the most fulfilling outside of your wedding day and being on the Olympic podium?
I would say the day that just popped in my head that I think was super cool and kind of made me giddy as a kid was getting to meet Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh my gosh, I watched you last night on that, and you're so young and just so adorable.
I was such a baby. Yes. But I remember as a kid getting that invitation and that offer and meeting Ellen backstage and getting to go on her show and seeing that she had followed my career and knew about my career. It was just kind of that moment where I was like, this is pretty cool, and I feel like I've made it.
Oh, I would love she is definitely top of my list to have on the podcast. And I just love her so much because she just creates so many miracles for people. Every day on the show, it's about who can she serve and help out. And it's amazing to see what she does. But I want to know, were there any miracles involved with you meeting your husband? And what was it like getting engaged at Wrigley Field?
Meeting my husband was definitely a miracle because it was just this random string of events that led us to one another. I actually, because I retired from gymnastics, was able to go to the London Olympics and work and not compete. And in working at the London Olympics, I met this USA track cyclist named Guy East and was interviewing him and getting to know him. And through these interviews, after we were off camera, he was just kind of like, I really think you should meet my younger brother. I think he would be great for him.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought he was absolutely crazy. But just through another long string of events, after I flew back to the United States, he happened to fly out to LA when I was on Dancing with the Stars, and we met, and it was just kind of a godly thing. But it was so random and so weird. It worked out, and he's been the greatest blessing in my life.
Well, it's pretty awesome to see your relationship because you guys love each other so much and you're so cute. And I feel like everyone should go to your YouTube channel and follow you and watch the amazing content that you guys create. Well, I have a couple quick fire questions for you before we end.
Yeah.
I want to know, what's your definition of a miracle?
I don't know. I would say a miracle to me can be defined as just something that you aren't expecting. I feel like a lot of times people put too much weight into the term miracle and they're expecting some grand event to happen. But to me, I think miracles come in the form of direction changes in life that are meant to happen and were supposed to happen that you never see coming. And they can be little things every day or massive things.
What might America not know about you? Because we know a lot about you, but what do you have a hidden talent? What don't we do?
Honestly, I'm probably one of the shyest people you'll ever meet. So putting my life out there on YouTube and doing interviews, and I'm very, very shy by nature. And so it's a crazy thing for me to do this whole career, but I try to act the part.
I would have never guessed that. That's crazy. That's amazing that you're able to extend yourself and put yourself out and be an extrovert when you're an introvert.
Yeah, it's challenging, but I've worked on it. I'm trying to get better.
I want to know what you are looking forward to most next.
I don't know. I feel like I'm at a time in my life where I'm just very happy with everything. I'm not striving for, more to be happy. I'm truly blessed right now with the life that I have, and I'm just looking forward to enjoying it. Hopefully starting a family soon and enjoying my life with my husband.
And what mantra do you like to live by?
Very cliche, but I've said it ever since I was a little kid, just that everything happens for a reason. And good, bad, or ugly, we are supposed to learn from it.
I want to know your most embarrassing moment. I read about one. I don't know if it's your most one to date, but I would love for you to share that.
I feel like there's quite a few. I would say one of my most embarrassing moments was, it was in Beijing. I don't know if this is the one you read about.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I was being interviewed by Bob Costas, and I had to use the restroom very bad before I went on air with him. And instead of running all the way down like this hall where we didn't have time to go, he said, "Oh, just use this bathroom." And I was like, "Okay." And when I was going to the bathroom, I dropped my cell phone in the toilet and didn't know what to do, so I just left it. And I come back out. We're sitting down to go on air, and it's just me and Bob. And someone comes into like the interview area, and they're like, "Hey, Bob, we found your cell phone in your toilet." And it was just, I was a 16-year-old kid that was mortified. And I had to take claim for that.
Did it completely, ruin your cell phone and it was done?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that is too funny. I want to know the athlete who's most inspired you in your life.
I don't know. Every story about every athlete is so different and so unique in different ways. And I feel like they're inspiring in different ways. But usually when I get asked the question of like, who was my idol growing up, or who was the person I looked up to, I had a unique, I've always had a unique answer to it. And I've never chosen a big name like a LeBron James or a Mary Lou Retton. They're all incredibly inspiring. But to me, one of my best friends that I grew up training with, she's younger than me by 3 years. And she was always just one of those athletes that she never had the God-given talent, but she had a heart and a passion for her sport that unlike anything I had ever seen. And her drive and her work ethic and just how she approached her sport, nothing was ever going to hold her back, and no one was ever going to be better than she was. And she was going to work to compensate for anything that she wasn't good at. And it was always just so inspiring to see.
The last question that I ask all my guests is, if there were 3 miracles that you could create in the world today, what would that look like for you?
There's so many things. It's cliche, but I wish everyone was nice to each other and
just be nice,
healthy and happy and just kind. I think our world needs a lot of kindness.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that so much today. I'm so grateful for your time. I'm grateful for the miracles that you are creating in the world. Where can people follow you?
They can follow me on every social platform, just under Shawn Johnson, or my YouTube channel, which is Shawn Johnson.
Awesome. And thank you again. Honestly, I'm so inspired by you. You were just the definition of humble and kind, and thanks so much for everything you taught me.
Well, thank you.
IHOP is excited to flip it forward for kids this year during their annual CMN Hospitals fundraising campaign. There are 3 ways that any IHOP guest can help sick and injured kids treated at their local children's hospital. 1, buy a miracle balloon for $1 or $5. 2, buy the Oreo Oh My Goodness pancake created by pediatric patient and IHOP Kids chef Champion Brody. $1 from his pancake will go to your local CMN hospital. 3, attend IHOP's free pancake day on March 12th. Get a free short stack of pancakes from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and then leave a donation for your nearest CMN hospital. All the money raised stays in your local community to help kids live better. Thank you for supporting kids.